Yes, good morning, students. Today we will start our second part of the chapter, Why do organisms reproduce, or how do organisms reproduce, of class 10th. And today we will discuss so many different topics and it will be very exciting. First, we will start with the recall part, right? So let's recall what we studied in our earlier classes. Yes, we studied about reproduction, we studied about the variation, the different causes of variation in different organisms. So yes, these were all the main points that we discussed in our earlier classes, right? So now you all must have heard this reproduction term in your earlier classes also. So now what according to you is the asexual reproduction? Like here, as you can see on the board, there is a picture of asexual reproduction. Like what you can understand from this picture, you just have to share your observation. Like in 1 or 2 lines, you can just finish your observations like this. What do you mean by asexual reproduction? Okay. Yes, as you all said it correctly, like in asexual reproduction, the parent organism, it reproduces into multiple copies, or it breaks into multiple copies sometimes, we can also say that. And here what happens is the offsprings that are produced, like these three, if they are the offspring, and this is the parent. So these offsprings are the exact copies of their parents. As you can see, there are no like differences you can see in both the like the offsprings and the parents. So this is one of the main points in asexual reproduction. And here, like as they're exactly similar, so as you all told that yes, they can be called as clones. So this was all about asexual reproduction, as you all said it correctly. So now we will move on ahead. So now I have prepared a video for you all. So we will watch a video. You have to carefully observe that video and then you have to share your observations, like what you watched in that video, and then just carefully see it. And you may find it very interesting, the process.
Amoeba reproduces asexually by binary fission. Binary fission is a type of asexual reproduction in which the fully grown parent cell splits into 2 halves, producing 2 new daughter cells. At the time of binary fission, the amoeba withdraws pseudopodia and becomes spherical in shape. The nucleus splits longitudinally and divides into 2 daughter nuclei. These daughter nuclei move towards opposite poles. This is followed by the elongation of the parent cell. A fissure appears in the middle of the cytoplasm between the 2 daughter nuclei, dividing the cells into 2 equal halves. Thus, 2 daughter amoebae are produced from a single parent. One of them has the original contractile vacuole, while the other develops a new one. The entire process of binary fission is completed in less than half an hour. But
so yes, did you find the video interesting? So now what you have to do is you have to share your observations, like what you watched in that video, like what was the video about and what you all watched in that video. So yes, as you all answered it correctly, the video was about amoeba, right? Amoeba. And yes, and what was happening to the amoeba? It was reproducing, as you all told. And what was the reproduction? The name of the reproduction there, it was reproducing asexually. Yes, and it was like binary fission. Yes, the binary fission happened. Like first their cytoplasm, they divide, then the nucleus they divide into a whole body. First the nucleus, it started dividing, and then the cytoplasm also divided. So yes, you have to remember what happened in amoeba, what process, name of the process was fission. So yes, today we will study more about fission. So now we will first come to the different slide, and then we will start our today's topic. So yes, this is fission that happens in amoeba. So yes, exactly what is happening in this picture is, wait, first let me, okay. So yes, so for unicellular organism, like cell division, for unicellular organisms such as amoeba, cell division or fission leads to the creation of new individual. As you saw in that video, like amoeba, they divided first, like the nucleus divided, then the cytoplasm divided, like the whole cell divided, and it gave birth to a new cell that was the offspring, right? So this was the fission, and many different patterns of fission can be seen, right? Fission have been discovered or have been observed in many different organisms, not just in amoeba, in different organisms. We will see more ahead, right? So many bacteria and protozoa. There are many bacteria, many protozoa, right? Simply, what happens in those bacteria and protozoa is they simply split into two equal halves. Like as you can see here, it is not like two equal halves here, but yes, it sometimes they split into two equal halves. And what happens after splitting? There is a cell division, and cell division, when cell division is happening in fission, what is occurring next? The reproduction of a new organism. So this is fission. Okay. So in organisms such as amoeba, what happens in amoeba? Wait, I will move on. First, I will move on to the next slide. So yes, this is an amoeba. What is happening here is, yes. So here you can see the first one is the parent amoeba. The nucleus, it starts to elongate, right? This is the nucleus in between. It starts to elongate. Like yes, it starts to stretch. When it stretches, it breaks into two single individual nucleus. As you can see, this and this. These are the two single nucleus, right? And then what happens is the cytoplasm, it also stretches and starts to divide into two. And then two daughter cells are formed. Like one is this one and second is this one. So this is how the binary fission in amoeba happens. So what is happening in the fission process is, like first there is a parent organism, right? This is the parent organism. Then this parent organism, what is happening is this nucleus, what is happening is this nucleus is stretching out, and this nucleus is then divided into two different individual nucleus, as you can see here. And this is the whole organism is stretched out, and then there are two different organisms. So this is the end product of the fission. And where this fission is usually happening, as you saw in that video, yes, it was happening in amoeba. So this was all about fission. And also there was one in your NCRTs, there is also one main example of binary fission where it is happening is in the malarial parasitic cell, that is the plasmodium. You must have heard about it, the plasmodium. What happens is in plasmodium is like multiple fission is happening, not binary fission, multiple fission. And why we are saying multiple, you will see like there are multiple daughter cells are produced. There only two daughter cells were produced, so it was like a binary fission. But here multiple daughter cells produced. As you can see here, the cells present in between, these are the daughter cells. So there are many daughter cells produced by multiple fission, and the daughters are then released. So this is how the reproduction in plasmodium occurs. The fission or the multiple fission occurs in the plasmodium. So yes, this was all about plasmodium and how reproduction happens in amoeba and plasmodium. So now we will see a different example. This is a leishmania, right? So in this organism, you have to explain how the fission is happening in this organism. Okay, as you can see, first there is a parent organism. Then what is happening? Yes, you can see like there's some growth in the flagella. Then the nucleus is starting to divide, and it divided into two individual single nuclei. The flagella is also quite developed, and then the whole cytoplasm is also trying to divide, right? As you can see, these two leg type of things, like yes, cytoplasm is also dividing, and then the whole divided into two different organisms. So this was the fission that is happening in the leishmania. So this was all about fission, where we all discussed fission in which all different organisms, in amoeba, in plasmodium, and in leishmania. So now we will move on ahead, and there is a question. The question is, yes, the ability of cell to divide into several cells during reproduction in plasmodium. Okay, you have to remember then plasmodium, right? Plasmodium is the keyword. Is called what it is called. You have to write the answer for this question in the comment box. And then we will move on ahead. Yes, so now we will move on ahead. I will give you 5 seconds to write your answers in the chat box. Okay, so now we will move on ahead. Okay, so now as in this picture, like just suppose, right? You'll just have to suppose, imagine, and then you have to answer based on your imagination, right? Suppose there is a single cell called bacterium, right? And bacterium is there. Like example, you can take this amoeba. Amoeba you can take. And what happens is, like, can the bacterium just break itself and form more organisms, like on its own? Can it break, or does it require some special conditions? Okay, some of you are saying it requires like a special condition, and some of you are saying it will break. Okay, we will see some more details now. Coming further, there will be more details. Okay. So yes, we will see some more details and answer to this question. So yes, okay. So you all must have seen jaggery, right? Like we will perform here an activity. What happens in this activity is we will take some jaggery. Okay, wait. So yes, what we did is we can either, okay, so yes, what we did is we can either take jaggery, or like I took this clay. What I did is I made a stick out of this clay, as you can see. Okay, so now I will be extending this clay, and what we will do is, okay, so now I have elongated it, and then I will try to tear it apart, right? And then you have to see what is happening. Right. I'm pulling it from both the sides, pulling it again. Okay, so now you see it broke into 2 parts. Again, I'm keeping this part below, and I'm again pulling it from both the sides. So yes, again it broke. So now I got 3 parts of the clay. As you can see on the video, 3 parts. So what actually happened? And yes, now you have to give your answer based on the activity we just did, and how you can relate it with the topic that we are reading, reproduction or asexual reproduction. How we can relate it. Okay, so now, yes, as you all answered it correctly. So yes, the process we just discussed right now, like yes, what are after, like first it was a whole part, like a whole structure when it was combined, but then it broke into different parts or different fragments, right? So yes, what happened at the end, which process? Fragmentation. Yes, so now we are going to discuss about fragmentation. So this is our next topic, or the next type of reproduction, that is fragmentation. So now you must be thinking, like, how will this happen? Fragmentation. So now we will move on ahead and you will find your answers. Right. Before moving ahead, yes. So now yes. So yes, as you can see, fragmentation in Spirogyra. So Spirogyra here is the example where we can see this fragmentation process. So yes, what happened in fragmentation was, like there was a whole parent organism present in the beginning, right? As you can see, the Spirogyra here present in your slide, right? Right? This whole Spirogyra was there present. Like this whole Spirogyra was present. This whole Spirogyra, a structure, right? This whole structure. Then fragmentation happened, and what happened was it divided into 2 different fragments, as you saw in the case of clay also. Like there were different fragments. Like these three fragments they formed, same happens in the Spirogyra. So you have to remember the example also, right? Everything divides. The nucleus, the septum is the portion where the division happens. And then the spiral chloroplast, it also divides. Everything divides into two daughter cells. So this was the process of fragmentation. So now we will move on ahead. So now there is a question, right? So why is fragmentation not possible in multicellular organisms? Multicellular here means like, why does this fragmentation not happens in human, right? What will it happen? What will, like if it happens in human, what will the other things that will happen? Like if my whole body is there, as you can see, if fragmentation happens, my face will be one fragment, my whole upper body will be one fragment, my lower body will be one fragment. That will be a disaster, right? So in the same way, you have to discuss different examples of some plants, of some animals, right? And you have to write your answers in the chat box. So now this is our question for today. This is for our today's second topic, like what happens in fragmentation. As you saw, you can give your examples with the help of this clay. And then you have to write what happens in fragmentation. Different fragments are formed in the Spirogyra. Same thing happens in the fragmentation, and you can write more detailed answers in the chat box. Okay, I will give you 5 seconds or like 10 seconds for writing your answers. Then we will move on ahead with our next topic for today. And then we will move on ahead. Okay. So yes, we will start with our next topic now. So this is the last topic for our today's lesson. So yes, now you all must have had accidents of your own. So what happens when you get a cut from any sharp object around you, or like if you have any accident, what happens? Yes, as you all answered, there is some blood and there is like, it pains a lot also. So yes, it happens. As you can see in this hand also, like his finger got cut due to an accident. So now my question is, like, as you all said, there is a lot of blood flowing out from that wound and then there is pain. So does this finger, like in this, if this is my hand and if this finger, it cuts, so will it grow back again? Okay, no, yes, no, it will not grow back again. It will remain same as you saw in this, like this person's hand, like, yes, it will remain the same. It will not grow back. Okay, so yes, you all answered it correctly. So now we will watch a very interesting video and then you have to observe that video and then you have to share your observations, right? So yes, we will move on ahead. Okay, so yes.
Okay. Seriously. I promise. It doesn't even hurt. That would be curtains in most organisms. I mean, this piece here is just a chunk with no head and no tail. But watch. You can see under a microscope that overnight its wound heals closed. Okay, maybe we could do that more slowly, of course. But then it starts to regenerate, growing new tissue. It's that white part called the blastema. In a week, see those tiny little spots? They're new eyes grown from scratch. But the planarian, can I call it that yet? It still kind of looks like a blob. By day 12, it's starting to look like a proper planarian. It's got a head, an entirely new one, and a new tail. And it's doing its regular planarian things, like pooping. That's because one of the first things it started regrowing was a tube called the pharynx, which is how things go in and out. It sucks up food.
So now, yes, you all must have enjoyed that video. So now you have to share your observations, what you saw in that video. Yes, you saw an planaria, the organism name was planaria. And what happened to that planaria? Yes, we just like, we made fragments of planaria, and this fragment, it grew again into a whole organism, right? Same happened in the like fragmentation. But what happened is here the regeneration happened. So yes, today we will study about regeneration. So yes, this is a diagrammatic explanation of what actually happens in regeneration. Like here, you have to see on the board what actually happens. Like a planaria is there. If this is a planaria, right? What happens is, if this is a planaria, this is the parent planaria, right? The parent planaria. If we divide it into 1, 2, and 3 parts, what will we get? First is the tail, then is the middle part. Here, this is the middle part, and then here is the head portion, right? This is the head portion, and all these different cut parts will again form the whole organism, planaria. Like they will all form the whole organism, planaria. So this was all about how the reproduction happens in planaria. So how does it happen? The process is known as regeneration. Yes, very good. So as you saw in the diagram also. Now we will move on ahead, and there is a question. So what kinds of cells are responsible for regeneration? Like they must have some special cells, I guess, because if our hand is cut in that way, it will not regenerate, but their whole body does regenerate. So you have to find, as it is a very interesting question, you have to find the answer for it, and then you have to reply it on the chat box, right? Okay, so we will move on ahead. And coming to our next question, that is, you have to complete this whole diagram. Like what will form at the end? Okay, yes, here will be an individual planaria, right? Yes, individual planaria will form at the end, and these individual planaria are the daughter planarias. And the process through which this happened was, what was the process known as? The process was regeneration. So yes, this was all about today. So now coming on to the recapitulation part. So what we discussed today was, we discussed different types of asexual reproductions. Like first, we discussed about the fission. Fission happened in which organism? It happened in amoeba, right? Binary fission. And in plasmodium also, there was multiple fissions, right? Then we discussed about fragmentation. In Spirogyra, there was fragmentation. And then we studied about regeneration. Regeneration was in which organism? Planaria. And also Hydra is also one of the organism in which regeneration happens. So these were the different types of asexual reproduction, and where, in which organisms they happen and how they happen. So this was all about today. Coming to the homework part. So these are some questions that you have to solve on today's topic, and then there is the activity. What you have to do is, you have to wet a slice of bread, keep it in cool, moist, and dark place, right? Cool, moist, and dark place, and observe the surface of the slice with a magnifying glass, right? After some time or some days, you have to observe it. You can also write or record your observations for a week. Like you have to watch it every day, like what changes you saw from the earlier day. And you have to, at the end of the week, you have to submit your report on Saturday. So this was all the activity about. So yes, thank you. And we will meet in our next class. So yes, bye.